And it's supposed to be Rukmini. It says Rukmini. It's supposed to be Rukmini.
She's in a hurry, or she's making fun? Good morning, everybody. I'm Suya and Rosa, dear Govinda, Dizeth, and Josie are here, and Bhakta Devin's online, Rukmini's online, and Payal is online. Thank you all for trusting that I have anything to say that would be worth listening to or taking home with you. This is the first time I've led a Bhagavatam class in front of people that are devotees. I practiced one last week, Rosa, Anasuya, and Payal, and a few people were there. We had about 10 people from our neighborhood there, which is really exciting. They were willing to come to class and have some prasadam. So I did a practice run with people that don't know much, and I don't know much, but I feel compelled to do this. I feel compelled to serve Krishna and Prabhupada this way, to connect to Srila Prabhupada by something that really empowers me. So, gonna give it my best shot. Forgive me for anything I might misquote or get excited. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Narayana Namaskricha Naram Chaiva Narotamam Devam Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jamudirayet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta Praishi Badrishu Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya Bhagavaru Tamashloke Bhakti Bhagavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service under the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Hare Krishna. We're going to read from Canto 4 today, and just a lot is coming up for me, Canto 4, for whatever reason, all kinds of reasons. We're reading Canto 4 in our morning program. Me, Anasuya, and Rosa, Allison, Kelly, Bhaktin Kelly, and occasionally 5 or 6 other people come and go, but we have a little steady morning program. And this is where we are. So I chose to kind of stay with that rhythm because I'm in the midst of the story pastime about Dhruva Maharaj. So I'm going to stay with that. So I'll catch you up before I read the purport on what's going on with Dhruva and why we're choosing to read about him today. We're in the 4th canto. We're in chapter 9 entitled Dhruva Maharaj Returns Home. We're on text 27. So 4, 9, 27. I'll read the Sanskrit first and then we'll call in response. Sopi sankalpajam Vishnu pada sevopasaditam Prapaya sankalpa nirvanam Nati prito Bhyagat purnam. I'll read a line and we'll call in response, and then I'll give you guys an opportunity to read if you'd like to. Sopi sankalpajam Vishnu Padaseva pasaditam Prapya sankalpa nirvanam Nati prito Bhyagat puram.
Sopi sankalpajam Vishnu.
Sopi sankalpajam Vishnu.
Padaseva pasaditam. Apya sankalpa nirvanam. Nati prito Bhyagat puram.
Atiprito Vyagataram.
Sopi Sankalpajam Vishnu,
Sopi Sankalpajam Vishnu.
Padasevo Pasatitam,
Padasevo Vasaditam.
Apya Sankalpa Nirvanam,
Prabhya Sankalpa Nirvanam.
Nati Prito Vigyat Karam,
Atiprito Vyagataram.
Sopi Sankalpajam Vishnu,
Sopi Sankalpajam Vishnu.
Padasevo Pasaditam,
Padasevo Vasaditam.
Prapya Sankalpa Nirvanam,
Prabhya Sankalpa Nirvanam.
Nati Prito Yagat Karnam,
Atiprito Vyagataram.
Sopi Sankalpajam Vishnu,
Sopi Sankalpajam Vishnu.
Parasavo Pasaratam,
Padasevo Pasaditam.
Rapa Sankalpa Nirvanam,
Prabhya Sankalpa Nirvanam.
Nati Triko Pikat Puram,
Atiprito Vyagataram. Anybody online want to repeat the verse? Okay. Word for word. Welcome, Damayanti. Sa,
Sa,
hey,
Hey,
Dhruva Maharaj.
Dhruva Maharaj,
Api,
Abi,
although.
although
Sankalpajam,
Sankalpajam,
the desired result.
the desired result,
Vishnu,
Vishnu,
O Lord Vishnu.
O Lord Vishnu,
Padaseva,
Padaseva,
by serving the lotus feet.
by serving the lotus feet,
Upasaditam,
Pasaditam,
obtained.
obtained,
Prapya,
Prapya,
having achieved.
having achieved,
Sankalpa,
Sankalpa,
of his determination.
of his determination,
Nirvanam,
Nirvanam,
the satisfaction.
the satisfaction,
Na,
Na,
not.
not,
Atiprita,
Atiprita,
very much pleased.
very much pleased,
Abhyagat,
Abhyagat,
he returned.
he returned
Puram,
Puram,
to his home.
to his home.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Jai. Despite having achieved the desired result of his determination by worshiping the lotus feet of the Lord, Dhruva Maharaj was not very pleased. Thus he returned to his home. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. By worshiping the lotus feet of the Lord in devotional service, as instructed by Narada Muni, Dhruva Maharaj achieved the desired result. His desire was to get a very exalted position, excelling those of his father, grandfather, and great-grandfather. And although it was somewhat childish determination, because Dhruva Maharaj was nothing more than a small child, still, Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is so kind and merciful that he fulfilled his desire. Dhruva Maharaj wanted a residence more exalted than any ever occupied by anyone else in his family. Therefore, he was offered the planet in which the Lord personally resides, and his determination was completely satisfied. Still, when Dhruva Maharaj returned home, he was not very much pleased, because although in pure devotional service there is no demand from the Lord, because of his childish nature, he had demanded something, and although the Lord also fulfilled his desire, he was not very pleased. Rather, he was ashamed that he had demanding something from the Lord, for he should not have done this. Hare Krishna. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashchacha Desha Tarine. Hare Krishna. So there's so much in this little purport. Sometimes that happens when we read in the morning. Sometimes I read and there's no punch in the heart, and sometimes there's a big one. And this one was one of those, so I was really glad it landed on me for today. Actually, I wasn't going to teach today, and I was going to teach on the 16th, lead class, study Bhagavatam with you guys on the 16th was my chosen date. Went to have my oil changed, reading Bhagavatam while I was waiting, and this was the verse that came up, and I got so moved by it, I had to stop for a moment and take a breath. And sometimes when that happens, I don't know why. I don't know, because it wasn't a big splash in the face, but there was something moving. So I just, on my phone in the car shop, texted dear Govinda email that I better go ahead and lead right away because something was coming. So the last few days, that was Thursday morning, I've been reading this verse and immersing myself.
I said, what about Sunday?
I know. He said, "What about?" I was thinking if he says, "What about today or tomorrow morning?" I would do it, but I had a couple of days to settle into this, and like I said, I led a class on Srimad Bhagavatam on Thursday afternoon, and it wasn't on this verse, but it was in front of live people, which I don't do very often. There's Zoom and there's WhatsApp, and there's in my head, and there's with devotees in conversation, many devotees with Anasuya and Pyle and Rosa. So deciding to come out of Melrose and immerse myself back into devotional service with the association has been a big decision, and it's already moving energy in me. So it's no wonder that I read it at the car shop, and I had been to that car shop the last 5 years, probably twice a year. So I read Bhagavatam every time I was there. So it made sense that I was warming up the joint, ready to receive some mercy. So what's happening here with Dhruva is, I heard this story a long time ago in 2017. Back then, there was only one bhakti podcast, and it was called Gita Wisdom. And it was Yogesvar in New York. Yeah, Yogesvar. Yeah. He only had about, I don't know, less than 100, maybe 20 or 30, 50 podcasts. So I listened to them over and over because that's all there was. And he told the story about Dhruva Maharaj, and I remembered it. And then I didn't hear about Dhruva again much, maybe in passing here and there. But then when we landed on this in class in the mornings, I was like, oh, good, I remembered it. And so it's stuck with me. And now there's tons of podcasts. I listen to all of them and try to stay in the vibe. But this one I remembered. So reading it from the beginning, now we're kind of in the middle towards the end, but more goes on. And so Dhruva was a 5-year-old boy. His father was Uttanapad. His great grandfather was Brahma. So he's got this lineage, this Kshatriya lineage, and he's got a lot of competition because there's more than one wife in the kingdom. So his mother, while she's a very wonderful woman, she's not the main player in the set of wives. So his first wife that he adores the most, Suniti and Surichi are their Sunichi and Suniti and Surichi are their names. The stepmother, there's always lots of stories about the evil stepmother. Well, there's one in this story too. So the stepmother, he's wanting to get up in his dad's lap. He's on the throne. It's, the other brothers are up there, and he's got a brother that has a serious demise in this story too, but we won't go there. But he wants to get up there, and the stepmother's like, no, my son's going to take over, and he's the only one that deserves, and you need to leave. And so he got instruction from the castle to go into the woods and search for Krishna, pray to Krishna, and ask for what he wanted. So he did. Now he's 5, so you have to imagine this. He's already a Vaishnava. They just don't know it yet. I don't know if he knows it. Yeah, but he's going into the woods to pray because he wants something bigger and better than what they have. Don't we all think that sometimes? So then that's when I hit on why I like this verse and why it was bringing up a lot of stuff for me, and I need to work through it. I just had a flashback, and I didn't have it till this morning, but I knew they always come if I'm patient and connected. In high school back in the 70s, we took typing class and shorthand, right? That's what everybody did. The girls, we were going to all be secretaries. And my parents, I guess, assumed that's what I wanted to do. And I was very shy. I never said a word. Our household was very rough. So we didn't get to have opinions or ask for what we wanted or say anything pretty much, or make a mess. So it was kind of like I just kind of did what they said, and I did it with some resistance. But I didn't know that's what they were thinking for me. I knew that's what a lot of girls were doing, but I went to Auburn University in 1980, and my parents, it was a rough day. I mean, they literally took me and dropped me off with my bicycle and a pile of stuff. And they left. And I didn't know anything, and I didn't have any bravery or courage or knowledge or nothing, not even any good Christian spiritual practice. But the first day we went on a tour of the campus, there was a young student guide and about 20 of us students going around the university to take a tour. And they handed us this piece of paper, and everybody was excited about what they were going to study, right? So they all were saying, like, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to be an accountant, and I'm going to be a doctor, and I'm in pre-law, and da, da, da. And then I didn't even know what I wanted to be, and I didn't know they had already picked something out for me. Secretarial. I was like, what? And I felt like that's really all they think I can do. Now, I wasn't able to express this at the time, but it hurt that they had such low, they were creating low expectations for me, and I was believing it. And so I set out to prove them wrong for like 30 years, just like Dhruva, right? So my parents are wealthy, my siblings are wealthy. Everybody's doing big things with money and houses and second houses and third houses and beach houses and fancy cars. And I never resonated with that. And so I was always the black sheep and didn't fit in. So the fact that they just wanted to get me out of the house and get on to college, the day after that, my dad left my mom and moved to Indiana. So it was a whole big twirl of weird feelings. But I just went to college. I didn't think much about it. And I found out I was really studious, and I liked school, and I could excel. So I made really good grades. I went to graduate school at University of Alabama, and I became a teacher, an anthropologist, a historian. Like, all kind of things happened for me, and I've had this beautiful life. And then there were them with all the money and the stuff. So I started wanting that. I started going after that to prove them wrong, to prove my dad that I was more than just a secretary or a teacher. Even a teacher to them was like, just go be a teacher. So, and I'm teaching today. I know they wouldn't understand, but I am still teaching. The point here with Dhruva is, when we get that envy in our heart, that we want to compete, we want more than, we're jealous, we're driven by all the wrong material things. I had immense drive, you guys. Like, my parents never paid for my college. They never gave me money. I worked 3-4 jobs. I went to school. I was determined, just like Drew. I was so determined to get what I wanted and to prove them wrong and to be somebody, right? And so I made it. Like, I had a lot of money, a lot of stuff. And I was able, when we went on vacations or went home for Thanksgiving or whatever it was, I could have a nice car and I could buy my own flight and all that kind of stuff. We went to Greece and took this really expensive cruise, and I didn't have to ask for help, stuff like that. It was meaningless, and I felt that meaninglessness in my heart, but I couldn't vocalize it until Sabato. So it's hard for me to have humility, because yesterday we were talking about, like, my lack of humility and my need to, like, be snarky or judgmental. It comes from so much conditioning, because I started my devotional life in my 50s. Now, for 10 years before that, I looked around under every nook and cranny and rock, but I didn't find what I was looking for. But it got me warmed up. And so I was accepting of Prabhupada the first time I met him in here, in this very room. I accepted him, and I still do. Sometimes I waver and saunter, as dear Govinda points out in my coaching sessions, but he's the one thing. So verse 434 in the Bhagavad Gita, Tadvidi pranipatina pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti yanam yanina sattvadarshana. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. He's seen the truth. So we don't go to somebody that hasn't seen the truth. I can't go to my parents. I can't. There's a chuckle in the back of the room. David knows all my parent drama. I cried about a 80th birthday party and came all the way up here to whine about it for 2 hours. So he knows, but, and I've been through advanced course 3 times, so there it is. It's that, so we go to someone who knows, we hear this all the time in these classes. We seek a professional, but not just that, someone who's seen God, who knows God. So I believed that Prabhupada knew God the first time I met him in here. And I went home, and for months or a year, I just watched every Prabhupada video, looking at every detail, getting off the plane, walking through the airport, what everybody was doing and around him, and what each temple looked like. And somehow my heart recognized this stuff. It knew it. So this eternal dharma that we have to be a servant of God, it had a it was like a whiplash. Now I didn't jump right in and surrender, even though I thought that sounded fun. I still haven't done that, but I jumped in with both feet. And Dhruva Maharaj is prayed for something similar. He wants something better than Brahma. I mean, Brahma created everything, so he's aiming big, and he's got this super intense focus. And they told him, go pray to Krishna, so that's what he's doing. So in a sincere prayer, that's all he had. There's no Bhagavatam out there. There's no sets of book. There's no temple. There's no association. There's no prasadam. All he had was determination. And that's really all it takes, is determination. But, I was determined to make a lot of money. I was determined to prove my parents wrong. That's using a lot of energy in all the wrong ways. I don't think they care or even noticed. I don't think my dad even knows what I do for a living or ever did for a living. So it was all up here, right? So getting out of there, head to Sabatove, the years gone by, here we are. And I don't know, most of y'all know this, but, and I was listening to Prabhupada last night. He said, Krishna will just take it away from you, because you gotta, if you sincerely want to be a devotee, you can't have one foot in and one foot out. Like, so everything I earned all those years, retirement fund, everything got taken away from me. And if I hadn't had a concrete devotional practice, I would have lost my mind. And along the way, I lost it a few times. But the day it happened, I had coaching, and I'd been through Sabatove. So I just finished my 3rd Sabatove Advance. The day that COVID shut down was the next day. So everything got taken away, and I'm still here, and I'm thriving, not surviving for sure. So Dhruva doesn't have anything. He's in the forest, and he's so exalted after just 6 months. That's what pure determination. Now, the part that I think struck me in this verse and made me want to lead a class on it was, I had pure determination to prove somebody wrong. I had pure determination to make money. I had pure determination to learn how to do things I'd never. People would ask me, "Where'd you go to chef school?" I didn't. Where did you what was your business plan? I didn't have one. Who gave you the startup money? I didn't have any. So determination works. I'm proof of it. I know for sure that it does for myself. It worked. There was nobody there all those 25 years saying, if things go south, I've got some extra money to loan you, or if you get really tired, I'll fill in for you. I just did it. And y'all, they were lots of 24-hour shifts and lots of craziness 7 days a week. And it stole my soul piece by piece. So by the time I got asked to come to the first Sabatove, I was ruined already. I'd been ruined for years, and I was so ready for something different. And I wanted to reconnect. I didn't know what it was called, but I wanted that. And so, perfect timing. Glad you were here. And I've lived all over the world, literally. And I got sent here for this, and it just took me a while, but I'm here. I'm staying. So this material determination, Dhruva had it too, and he's hurt. Hurt drives us to do crazy things, react and judge and go in a direction that's not healthy. But Dhruva goes into the forest, and he's so sincere that Krishna shows up. So Vishnu's standing before him, and he touches him on the forehead with a conch shell, and he gets all full realization, absolute truth, just like goes through him. So now he's a pure devotee. He gets a planet called Dhruvaloka, the pole star planet, where Krishna Vishnu lives. So it all worked out, even though he started with material motivation. So this was a relief, because sometimes I have so much shame and guilt, y'all. Yesterday when I walked in here and I saw the little cows up on the altar, those cows I gave to dear Gwenda for her 60th birthday. They showed up in my mail one day. I'm not sure who sent them to me, Krishna or Prabhupada, but they came in the box. I opened the box and I thought, well, these are cute little cows. I had just started practicing. I didn't really know much. And Kathleen called me about 5 minutes later, said, you want to go to dear Govinda's birthday party with me? And I don't have a gift. Do you have something? I said, well, I got these cows in the mail. And so I brought the cows, put them on the altar. You know, it was innocent enough. I still don't know where they came from, but it doesn't matter. I put them up there and they've been there all this time, all these years. And I was glad to see them yesterday when I came in because I haven't been coming here for programs in person. And I knew that I had grown a lot in 5 years when I saw them because the little shape of their nose looks a lot like this little dog I had named Pinky that passed away 5 years ago, whatever, 7 years ago. And I came in here one time and I was sitting, we're in the studio sitting and I was chanting and I looked up and I saw the shape of that little face. And I felt that shame of all the animals that I had been responsible for. In my catering business, in my restaurants, I had 3 different restaurants over the years and we had always served, you know, chicken and beef and whatever, so much meat. I still have shame over that, but it doesn't paralyze me anymore. I pray for forgiveness and mercy. But it was those cows, the day I saw those cows and their little face, and I knew that I had a little dog of a similar shape, it sat on me to, this is a full commitment to vegetarianism. This is a full commitment to Srila Prabhupada. What was I thinking? I got so disturbed in my shame that I had to get up and leave the program. You probably don't remember this, but the only time I ever left, I always just stayed the gamut, right? Like heroes. I got here early and I stayed the whole time. And I had to go to work after that. I had that full-time crazy job after I came here for 5.5 hours a day. So I left in the middle of chanting and got in my car and pulled down the road and just bawled. And I felt so guilty and so much shame. And I didn't want anybody to see me so disturbed. So I left and I went home and I didn't know what to do with myself, but that was a committing day of bhakti for me. And so that history that I have with serving and eating meat, the history I have with trying to outdo my family members, it's all material motivation, but it got me here. Yeah. So Dhruva is having the same experience. I'm not comparing myself to Dhruva. He is a pure devotee. So in this purport, how do we see Krishna like Dhruva did? We serve him. We talked about this yesterday in class. We serve him. It's not about memorizing 8,000 verses or reciting or me coming here and preaching like I know everything, because I don't. I'm in the midst of, material urges all day long. The senses pulling me for ice cream, to going to the beach, to even just reading last night. Sometimes I just get tired of reading the Bhagavatam and I want to do something mindless, but I didn't let myself yesterday. And I said, what would it be like if I just served all day long, 24? Like I got up early at 3 and I got up again this morning at 3. And it's like, if I wasn't asleep, then I was serving. And it was, all these things were beautifully lined up so that I could feel present enough to lead this class today. So this eternal occupation, my Dharma is wanting me to do this. I want to do this. It's eternal. And so I posted last night I decided that my break from reading, I chanted like, I don't know how many rounds yesterday, maybe 60 or 80. When I took a break, I went to the computer because I'm Rajasic, so Rajasic. And I'm an Aries and I'm a 7 on the Enneagram. I've got all kind of energy. So I need to get up, move around. So I went to the computer and decided to create something for Facebook because that's part of my stretch, is putting myself out there, just saying what I'm thinking, even if it's wrong, stupid, weird, whatever. Even if nobody gets it or reads it, I don't care. So I'm practicing that, what that feels like, what that looks like. So I went to the computer and I decided if we're going to take a break, we take a break with Krishna. And I looked at my notes from Dear Govinda's class yesterday and I sunk down in what I was feeling most, and I just wrote about it. This banyan tree, there's so much to say about the banyan tree, so I had to pick something, and even then I just couldn't stop writing, but I had to put it into it. This banyan tree example that we hear all the time, and how we're caught in illusion. So to get out of illusion, we go, like it said, we we surrender sincerely, and we serve the servant of the servant, all those servants, all of those servants who serve Krishna, we serve them. Because direct approach with, Dhruva was out there and he was going direct, but Narada Muni showed up. He's his spiritual master, he just kind of swoops down. So Narada Muni shows up, becomes a spiritual master, and we get instruction from our spiritual master, and just like Dhruva did. So things shifted, right? Once he got a spiritual master and he started following instructions and listening to a spiritual master, and he had someone there with him, his devotion expanded, and it didn't take him 63 years or 50 years or whatever. Krishna just showed up. And so that's how it can happen. If we follow strictly our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, or whatever spiritual master you have one and stick with it and listen and follow instruction, because that's really what it's about. There's no other way to do it. That's bhakti. We serve each other. We serve our masters, their masters, all the way up, and then we please them, and then we receive, and this reciprocal thing goes on, so that we keep receiving and serving, and so Dhruva just got this once download all at once, which is bizarre to think about. If I had read this 5 years ago, even, I just started reading the Bhagavatam personally 5 years ago, and I did it because of a podcast. There's another podcast, I know it's not so popular in this arena, but Wisdom of the Sages, I give Kastuba and Radhanath credit for. When I lost my job and lost everything, I downloaded another 100 episodes. Here we go. And I like the Bhagavatam when they talked about it, because it was a fluid conversation, and they're kind of silly sometimes, but it's their podcast has evolved a lot, and so I don't listen so much anymore. Every now and then I do, just because it's an easy listen while I'm cooking, but I don't necessarily follow with everything they do, but when they speak of the Bhagavatam, because Stu is well versed in the Bhagavatam, and I trusted him enough to go, I'm going to download these and I'm going to take off for 30 days in my RV. I lost everything. I was about to have to get rid of that too. So I'm like, let me go use it one last time. And I'm a nature girl. So I went out and just stayed off the grid for 30 days. And Dear Govinda told me, if you stay longer than 30 days, you're kind of hiding and putting your head in the sand about what's fixing to go down in your life. So I set a 30-day mark, and I took off. And in that 30 days, I listened to those 100 episodes, however many they had at that time, because they were new to the podcast. Maybe it had a year's worth. So 365 episodes I listened to over and over. I mean, and kirtan, windows down, singing kirtan in the woods, singing Jaya Radha Madhava, swimming in the lake, being off grid. There's nobody out there. It was COVID. It was quiet. It was free to camp anywhere because everything was closed or nobody was there. And that's when I said, wow, the Bhagavatam is amazing. Mm-hmm. So when I came back, I started reading every day, and I'm only in Canto 4, and that sits up there and kind of daunting every day to remind me I have a long way to go. But if I just take one verse at a time and sink into it, like this verse in the auto repair place, I had to sit down, and I know why now. But reading about Dhruva, not to parallel my life, but to go, what is the message here for me? Because anyone could teach this class and have a different class. I'm sure Dear Govinda's would be completely different. Yours, Rosa, I don't see anybody. But Prabhupada was saying last night when I was listening to one of his recordings, I posted one on Facebook that was just perfect for today's class, but I listened to a few more. They're all good. Doesn't matter where you land. When a boy and girl are in love with each other, that's all they can think about. He uses that example a lot. Like when you first meet somebody and you're really smitten, you see them everywhere. You can't not, you just think about, when's the next time I can see them? How am I going to please them? And that's what Prabhupada wants from us for Krishna. But I don't know him like that. So how am I have to falsely kind of make myself by paint my door blue or buying a blue minivan. I got a blue journal. I got a blue phone cover. I'm trying everything I can. I carry my clicker so I don't forget to chant in between chanting. There's ways we can do it, but we have to love him in order. Then it won't be hard to put him in the front all the time. So Prabhupada using that example, I kind of snickered. I've heard it before, but I was thinking, I've had those experiences back in the day when I was younger. And it's a great feeling to always think about the one you love and how you can serve them. And how are we going to serve them if we don't know them and we don't have explicit instructions from somebody who does know them? But here's what he likes. Here's what he doesn't like. He's not a big fan of garlic and mushrooms and onions and chocolate and caffeine. So we know some things. and just, carrying on with my my question yesterday for Dear Govinda, I was like, when I'm at this Methodist church that I serve at in Melrose, I notice the difference. I don't see that deep love, and I don't experience those servants as deeply involved in getting to know. So right now the church is reading a book called Experiencing God, and they're wild about it. It's like they've opened the vault to the what's the name over in Egypt? It's like they're like discussing at round tables how to have a relationship with God. I'm like, well, no. I mean, this is what and it's new to them. I mean, I'm glad for them, but the relationship comes and it deepens as we deepen, as our sincerity deepens. It's proportionate to our sincerity. Of course, there's grace. It can just plop on you, if it did for Dhruva. Sincerity is really important. Like I said in Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita verse I recited earlier. And then there's 1866 about surrendering. And I heard that verse at a class, and I'll never forget the moment I said, I reacted to that word surrender, but my heart, that eternal part perked up. Like, there's a way. I just have to surrender, even though it seems impossible and difficult and crazy. There's a way. It just, in 1 minute, Prabhupada says we can surrender. So I know that exists. I'm doing my best, but I'm not really doing my best, because if I gave it the effort I had given those 25 years where I became the best event planner in North Central Florida, if I had that kind of drive and that kind of sincerity and that kind of determination, it would be a wild experience. I already feel elated and joyful every time I read or listen to Prabhupada or chant. So I can't imagine what that would feel like. I want to experience that in this lifetime. And I know that association is one of the main ingredients, right? We made a list of determination, the things for determination the other day, and I printed it out, and I have it here. Faith, steady practice, association, tolerance, lots of tolerance, accepting guidance from Srila Prabhupada, and concise goals. Like, I got to know, is this what I really want? Because when I knew I wanted a full bank account, and I knew I wanted to be the best, and I knew I could do it. So I gotta make sure I have a big target with an arrow to go there. And it's not about free will. It's not, that's what I was using before. I was determined in a material way, just ecstatic willpower to be somebody, to be seen, to be heard, to be recognized. So we studied these in our class the other morning, and because I just need to get clear, like, what are the things in determination according to Srila Prabhupada, according to Krishna consciousness, not according to Laksmipryia or business or family, right? Family, that skin disease family, I've been gifted of parents that don't care, a sister that won't speak to me. I was gifted that. And had I not been gifted that, along with everything taken away, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. I might be hanging out with them, trying to get my word in the conversation, trying to be heard, trying to outcook them at Thanksgiving, trying to pay for this or that to prove I got something. Like, I might still be there, but they just ignore me consistently. I could call them right now and put them on speaker and you'd hear it. I've done that with my friends. Probably just watch how it is. And they're like, oh my God. So I got that. I don't have that. The desire just left, though. It only left recently. So don't let me brag and get all high in my, right? I mean, I wanted a family that cared, but I didn't get one. And now I see how it needed. I thought I never wanted to have children, but I thought maybe I'd have a partner one day, but I really didn't want that either. And so Krishna really, he intercepted those thoughts, those desires, right? He's right here listening. And he knew I wasn't the family kind of person. So he was giving me exactly what I asked for, which is what he did, Dhruva Maharaj. Exactly what he asked for. So when I was reading the purport in the gas, the car auto shop, the last sentence, he had demanded something from the Lord he should not have done. He's ashamed. I mean, it's not that we should carry the shame around. So I was like, he just met Krishna in person. He's going to the eternal planet to be with Krishna. He's got like 36,000 years to go in Brahma years. It's why is he walking home with his tail between his legs? And I was placing my material conception of how we act when we're ashamed on Dhruva. Dhruva's shame is it's not material shame. It was rooted originally in material shame. But he's reflecting back. And I suppose I read a little ahead, but I don't like to go ahead. I like to take it as Prabhupada's dishing it out each day. This is where we're at, and this is what we're doing. And I did that when I taught in Melrose. I didn't know what verse was coming up. And as I was turning the pages, every material part of me wanted to go see what was going to be landing on Thursday at 4:00 for me so that I could get psyched out about it and prepare somehow to impress somebody or something. But instead, I just like opened the page. Here we are. And it was a good one. It was perfect for our group. And I think all you who attended, it was a blessing to practice. And this verse for today, so I could see the parallel and be grateful for that tiny drop of mercy. I'd be grateful for even for my material disease situation. Be grateful for it. All the things that happen to us, all the things along the path to get us to get us here. I'm gonna just look at my notes. I write crazy notes. I know you guys know it's always just a bunch of notes, but sometimes I write things that I want to share, and I just want to see if there's anything I didn't cover. Well, the word catalyst came up. The catalyst, my parents' rejection being a catalyst, COVID being a catalyst, living in Melrose at Prabhupada's house is a catalyst. Everything that gets us. The catalyst can be material, but I don't want to hang out there as long as I did, right? The catalyst is important. We need the catalyst, but Dhruva is kind of thinking back on it, and I guess he feels some sorrow of starting out wanting something bigger than his father had and bigger than Brahma had, and Krishna, because he came all the way across to full consciousness of God and prayed to God with sincerity, he got both the material and the spiritual. So he had a little catalyst, a little rejection, a little stepmother stuff. And then this word sankalpa is in the verse twice. And so I know this word as a yoga teacher. I really enjoy teaching yoga. I really enjoy helping people with their bodies because I had severe back issues and now I don't anymore. And I did that through yoga. I like doing that, but I also like getting a room full of people still enough to hear this kind of scripture. And I've learned, I've become adept over the last couple of years at disguising it if they're not bhakti friendly into something they can handle, so that they get still and they feel themselves in their body, which is also an exercise I have to practice. But sankalpa I knew from yoga training, set an intention for the class. Nobody in the class that I teach ever even knows what that means. So it's been a real journey just going, okay, what do you, even the word, if you're from the Methodist Church or you're from the Genesis Help Club or from Gather, it's knowing any Sanskrit. Nobody knows any unless they're, we know it because we practice it, and they don't have that connection. So teaching them about sankalpa, determination, like setting that clear determination, is full resolve, full commitment, like I had for my business. It's not just positive thinking. So when I talked to them about this, so when I saw the word, I go, oh, there's something familiar, a little something Prabhupada set up for me to land on today that I could relate to. Is like, we know about this. So when we chant, we follow the regular principles, we read, we study. Yesterday, dear Govinda sat down and said, okay, we're going to study Bhagavad Gita. And today we're studying Srimad Bhagavatam. And we're going to study Prabhupada's videos. And we're going to study Chaitanya Charitamrita. We're going to study all those books in there. We're going to study with each other and solo. And we're going to hear nonstop And we're going to set our intention on the real target, right? The last thing in this, I just made this flyer for us, but concise goals at the bottom. Like, do we want out of here, or we want to keep doing it again? Dhruva referenced this yesterday when we were studying Bhagavad Gita. Is like, do we want to get out of here, or do we think we can mitigate it? And even if we don't get out of here, because that's not really the objective, it's at least I want to be connected to my real dharma. Let me at least, if I'm going to be here some more times, then let me connect so deeply that I'm living a life that is not steeped in illusion. So we undo the illusion, we cut the knots with an axe. It's an axe. There's lots of stories about axe cutting the rope. So the sankalpa, the determination. So in asana yoga, it might sound like, let me serve and honor the soul in every body. And I say that a lot because there's people in there that don't understand what they don't know they're not the body, and they don't know even this I don't know that either. I'm not saying I've grasped it. I'm just saying, as to have that conversation with strangers, to see the soul and explain to them what namaste means, and to pray for patience while I learn how to do this. That's the main thing I struggle with, is like, I want it now. I want to do the work, and I want to do the in material mindset, you know. I want to do the work. I want to get the A+. I want to get the certificate. I want to go back to God. Like, I grew up like that. That's our generation. That's me. I've proved that it works, but I'm doing a different experiment now. You know, this bhakti experiments, this scientific. I mean, if any, David and Suya saw me 10 years ago, 8 years ago, there's that person, she's still in here, you know, but I transform, not because I'm going to self-help classes, not because I'm doing yoga, you know, asana yoga or goat yoga. It's because I don't teach goat yoga. It's very fun. I'd like to go try one time, but I really, Prabhupada works through me in my yoga classes, and I'm in a sanctuary at a church doing it most of the time, or at a sacred space. So it's or at Prabhupada's house. So it's serving with what we have, with the tools we've been given. I'm a creative person, so creating things that entice people to sit down and talk for a minute. Yesterday I was baking today's bread in the kitchen, and there were 2 guests at Prabhupada house. Everybody comes around when there's bread coming out of the and so it's like a little carpet rolls out, but I'm in charge of unrolling the carpet. I mean, Prabhupada always sets it out and nudges me on the shoulder if I get caught in my own stuff. But Dhruva got what he asked for, materially and spiritually. And in 6 months or so, at 5 years old. So he's the ultimate, right? The austerity that he followed from his spiritual master got him there. His drive, his determination. Yesterday, when I wanted to share this with you guys, I put it online, but on my Facebook page, if you want to hear it live from Mother Janava. I left here yesterday and felt a strong desire to go visit with Mother Janava. She just lives down the street. She was my buddy since 2017. And I knock on the door and don't even know if she's home, didn't call her. And she bright-eyed opened the door. I said, I need to ask you about humility. And she goes, oh, I've got just the thing.
Mother Donna has been serving Srila Prabhupada in his movement since the 1960s.
Yeah.
So she's very
she's in it.
highly experienced.
And she loves bhakti so much. If you spend time with her, you can ask anything or she's got all the documents, the books, the knowledge, the experience, the love, the determination. So I walked to the door. David yesterday to ask me to recite the prayer that I learned years ago and about humility, and I did. I remembered it. That was shocking. I say it sometimes, but not every day. So it's in there. It's in there for good. And I went to Mother Janava, and she welcomed me in. Of course, she always does. She has a sort of a almost life-size Murti of Srila Prabhupada. It's very austere little apartment she lives in. And so right on her computer, she has this, and she reads it to me with her dramatic sensibility, because that's how she is. She was an actress kind of person. So she's very dramatic. So she reads it to me and I said, would you read that again? I'm about to record this because I'm gonna hear this over and over. So I posted it last night on Facebook on my page if anybody wants to see it, her reading, but I'm gonna read it to you now rather than play her recording. This is from Harivilas Das. I remember going on a morning walk around the something Bois de Boulogne, I guess that's in France, in which there are some lakes. And I remember asking Prabhupada a question. I asked several questions, but one specific question was, Srila Prabhupada, what does it mean to be humble? And his answer was really incredible. He said, humility means that you are convinced beyond any doubt that there's nothing in this world, not your money, not your family, not your fame, not your gun, not your education, nothing that will save you except the mercy of Krishna. When you're convinced like that, then you'll be humble. So I got some work to do, but it's spiritual work. And I enjoy spiritual work. And there's a whole lot of Dhruva Maharaj still to read about and explore. And no doubt he'll have some tickles and punches for me. And I think that's all I want to say. I think I'm going to let you guys tell me what's going on for you. This class is invigorating and it feels good to be here and serve you guys. And hopefully there's something that sparks a little tickle or punch in your own body to go forward, have something to be determined about. Would anybody like to? Well, let me let me first thank Srila Prabhupada. For giving me this voice, for teaching me, for being patient and tolerant with me, and for allowing me to step slowly into humility. And I think the sincerity of the endeavor, it's not always there. But I like knowing it exists, and I trust. I trust. I trust in due time. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Jai Shri.
Hi, Krishna.
Hi.
You had to leave us because internet connection wasn't very well this morning.
Oh,
So I was going to share a little bit about what happened after you had to leave us. And we're reading a Krishna book and about Lord Balaram visiting sacred places. And he went to the battle of Kurukshetra and he was wanting peace, and there was no peace. There was still no peace. The fighting was continuing, and he decided to go back to Dvarka. But
but did Naimisharanya.
say again?
He went to the Naimisharanya where all the sages were.
Yes, and he did that as well. Yeah, and but what I was appreciating with the discussion with Vaishnavi, who was on the line with us this morning, she's at Krishna Island in Ireland. So if you ever go to Ireland, go visit. Beautiful place.
Who was that?
Vaishnavi.
Vaishnavi. Oh,
Yeah, she joined us. And so there was from Prabhupada about the disturbances. Like there's all these disturbances that are going on. There's famine, there's wars, there's natural disasters going on, and I loved her perspective. She says, well, have you listened to a lot of Srila Prabhupada? I'm like, not as much as you, Vaishnavi. Like she has all this wealth of knowledge. And so she's like, well, it was wartime and Prabhupada did not leave when they were coming to Calcutta. And there was bombing going on and people were leaving and people were asking, why are you not leaving, Srila Prabhupada? He goes, because if that bomb comes from me, that bomb is Krishna. And I was like, that was so powerful just to hear someone say with conviction and trust. And Srila Prabhupada gave that in one of his lectures, that bomb comes towards me, I welcome him as Krishna. And that's just it's just so powerful. And she always brings such nice perspective after we've had our readings in the morning. And so she's a wealth of knowledge. And so I wanted to share that with you because you missed it and we don't record it. So, and yeah, just had so much value. Just, whatever's going on in the world, the do you remember? I can't remember, but the battle coup, etc. Like it was millions or billions. I mean, it was like an amazing number of people that were killed.
600 million.
600 million. So no battle, no war has given us 600 million deaths. And so it's part of reducing the number of miscreants and the basically demoniac personalities in this world. And so Lord Balaram and Lord Krishna came to be with us to help to reduce the number. And so with that battle and with the other battles that are going on, I have a different perspective again by hearing from who I consider very knowledgeable of Srila Prabhupada, because we're in such state of affairs as we are. And it gives me more peace to know it's all Krishna's energy, it's all Krishna's plan. And so to help us to reduce that suffering so that we can remember God, we can remember Krishna, we can remember him. And if that bomb is coming towards me, it's Krishna. So I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, less worry,
Less worry.
less tension, less spinning in our minds.
Mm-hmm.
Just get close to Krishna and Prabhupada right now, so we're ready when the bomb or whatever it is.
Not be
is coming.
disturbed.
Yeah.
Not be disturbed, not to have to run away, not to have to put the gun, as you just said.
Yeah.
As Mother Janava gave you that reading.
Yeah.
You don't have to pull the gun.
I'm sorry I missed that conversation.
Yeah, it's really powerful. She gets fired up.
Yeah,
She gets fired up in the morning.
I had a conversation with my go-over too.
It could, and I had to say, I have to leave. I have to leave. I have other.
Well, I felt like it was Prabhupada giving me a chance to do my rounds before because I wanted to chant, so it worked out. It worked out.
Yeah, it worked out.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you
for sharing.
And there is oops, sorry. I will get this. Here we go.
Hi Krishna. So yesterday after the discussion, we were talking about humility, and I do, and I got off track, but I was talking about when people are experiencing like suffering of their material body and like partners and abandonment rates and things like that. You posed the question today about, what is it to be ashamed after we receive such gifts, right? Because Krishna will give us anything we ask for, whether it's material, whatever our heart desires. And I think about what that shame is. I'm getting a little lost. I'm going to tell a story. When I was going through cancer, I can relate. I don't have family, right? Yeah. That's been a pain in my life where I've wished it was different ever since I was a kid. So I think I was like 32, 37 now. I don't remember how old I was, but I got diagnosed with cancer. And like sitting in the doctor's office with my primary care doctor, and she's like, "You're gonna have to ask for help. You're gonna have to ask for help." I was like, "Okay, I understand." And so put out the call, right? And I received help from so many people in so many different ways, but one that's impactful to me to this day, person I admired greatly, I considered her friend. Just from knowing the situation, called off of work for 2 weeks to come stay in my house after a double mastectomy, right? So major surgery, first surgery of my life.
By your son. Well, 20.
And he just did it like it was nothing. And when I tell you this man came to my house and served me like a servant, he was on his hands and his knees, cleaning my floor, doing my dishes, taking care of my animals, not to mention the way that he took care of me. I looked like Frankenstein, right? Like I had tubes coming out of me with blood and like I couldn't really move because of things. There's times where he had to clean me. There's I remember very specifically because of the way the surgery is in the tubes, like there's fluid that will build up. And that's what the tubes are supposed to be for. I was having fluid build up. It was like the end of the night, the second day of surgery. And I'm like, my chest on one side looks like a waterbed. And he's up, it's late, and he's at the edge of my bed, Googling, trying to figure out if I'm okay. Meanwhile, I'm so tired, I'm just falling asleep. Called my doctors anyway, all of these different things. Humility and allowing somebody to show up for you as you are, to be accepted in that way and to be lovingly served. And I mean, you will feel shame. I mean, like I couldn't help that situation, but what it also makes me think of is the loving guidance and care of a parental figure, right? Or anyone in our lives. I can relate to what you're talking about, being determined, right? Being young is like, I know what's going on, I know what I'm doing. Like, I don't need help, I don't need advice, I don't need this. And people are like, okay, right? And you don't know that that's what they're. I'm like, okay, I believe you. You do what you're doing. And then years later, I think to myself, oh my goodness, these people have tolerated so much. And so that's the shame and the gratefulness come hand in hand in my experience, right? Incredibly grateful, dovetailed with the shame of understanding the humility of understanding my condition at whatever time. And that's what that makes me think of. It's all that's coming in my head.
So this class kind of brought all that back to you, that you were isolated, you didn't have anybody to call, you thought, but you reached out and lo and behold, people showed up and even took time off work
In giant ways.
giant waves. Yeah.
I my whole life I've avoided asking for help, but I've been that like sure force of will. I got it. I can do everything, right?
Yeah.
And here I was in a moment in my life where I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do in so many ways. I did not have control.
Yeah.
And people just showed up and did things for me and were nurturing and caring and loving. Oh, I remember one thing. So at the end of this, right, it's a couple weeks afterwards, and you know, I'm good enough. I can bathe myself and like stuff like that. I tell what I consider my best friend, his name is Jesse. I was like, you know, this is one of those instances where thank you isn't enough. Like there's never anything I can do to repay you. And this man says to me, don't thank me, thank God. And this was a time of my life I had no relationship with God. So to me, that was completely like, okay. I was just frustrated. And now I understand. And now I understand.
You heard that. The God part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Little opening, little crack. Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thanks for sharing that vulnerable story, Rosa. So glad that you had support. I think as independent individuals, we think we can do it all, especially if our family's not there, but even just independence in general. And having the strength to reach out and seeing what came to you so naturally. And then now we're you're in devotional association. So it's a powerful thing to support and love and serve each other. We have each other. It makes that some of that fear and anxiety about being solo in the world, at least it does for me, kind of dissipate. And then it still comes up sometimes as independent folks, single folks without family, but it sounds like that was a little door opening for you to get you ready for being here today.
I'm pretty sure the whole cancer situation was
Yeah.
this way because
Yeah.
I was too stubborn.
You were too stubborn.
I was
Yeah.
too stubborn.
You were going to try to do it yourself, but God sent you some warriors of service. Yeah, and the material friends, the material relationships, the ones that you considered some of your good friends, couldn't handle that service. Yeah, so probably, I don't know if you had people that didn't show up or didn't come, but this guy, was he already your best friend?
I was already a very good friend of mine. We had similar interests, but
Yeah.
like nothing that warranted this level of
Mhm.
service. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
it's a lot. Taking on the full thing.
and in whatever moment in my life when I've been through difficulty, it's the people that you don't expect that show up in big ways, and the people that maybe you think you're close to, they disappear. But that's in the past. You know what I've seen.
Yeah, I'm wondering, Dhruva's going back home, you know, after all this has happened, so I'm wondering what's coming up for his, as when he, I don't know, because I can't remember the story. But I know he's going home, and that's that getting back and seeing the family members, the ones that have rejected you, and what that's gonna be like for him. Thank you, Rosa. Is it- is there anything?
I'm appreciating very much Laksmipryia to yeah, all years something a little way. You know, it's very tasty.
Interesting.
Appreciating Laksmipryia, you related, but philosophically, intellectually, and emotionally, spiritually, Dhruva's pastime, Dhruva's story with your own personal life. And for me, it just it's impacting me how you're immersed in the Bhagavatam. This pastime, the story, the history of Dhruva Maharaj in the forest with his mother and stepmother and Ingupana Uttanapad. And yeah, it's not a story from the Bhagavatam that I reference much. Srila Prabhupada references it a lot. Of course, he gives so many lectures on it, and he references Dhruva a lot. So I appreciate that because we encourage people to read all of Srila Prabhupada's books, and it could be years or decades so they get to the fourth canto. So I'm appreciating in this class and your presentation, you're bringing that fourth canto. You're bringing the story of Dhruva Maharaj, and I'm glad you referenced, you heard it back many years ago from Yogeshwar Prabhu in one of his podcasts. So because then there's so many aspects of the philosophy and stories and pastimes from sixth canto, Ajamil, and fifth canto, and Bharat, and here fourth canto, which many might there are certain stories in Bhagavatam that I reference, and this isn't one of them. And but Srila Prabhupada referenced us, so I appreciate your bringing Bhagavatam with heart and soul and relating it to your life. And for me, my endeavor when I'm reading Prabhupada's books, Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, my endeavor is to enhance, refine my philosophical understanding, and to look in the mirror, like, okay, how's this applying to me? Right, inspired how you're doing that. And we can see in the pastime of Dhruva, as you nicely pointed out, actually his mother was his guru. His mother was his Bhartma Pradarshat guru. And because so he had these material desires, so she directed him, you should approach Vishnu, you should approach God to fulfill desires and that. And so she directed him, he went to the forest, and his desires were very material, as you pointed out. It's described in Bhagavad Gita. Chatur vida bhajante mam jana sukriti narjuna atar jigasa artati gyani cha bharatar shiva. That Krishna says, some people approach me because they want more money. Some people approach me because they're sick or their family member's sick and they want them cured. Some people approach me because they're just casually curious. And Krishna says, like, okay, that's not like the purest motivations. Still, and Dhruva Maharaj is such such an example of this. And Krishna says, Bhagavad Gita, 7th chapter. But for any reason, someone approaches the absolute, the supreme person, they'll get purified. And so it's auspicious. It's auspicious. And so we can see that in Dhruva, then that's what this verse, then he felt like, well, I was seeking some pieces of broken glass. And now I get these diamonds. What a fool I was to seek these pieces of broken glass. And I like how you skip it. He didn't wallow in the shame in a grungy way. He let those emotions move him to be urgent and intense in his pure devotional service, serving God, serving Krishna, just for the pleasure of Krishna, regardless of whether materially rich or poor or famous, honored or insulted. So thanks for churning all these principles in a very personal and philosophical way. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, I'm thinking about all those Bhagavad Gita questions I answer in your classes.
Good.
And I always ramble on about my personal experience, but I think that's what gave me the hook into spiritual texts is I've got to somehow figure out how this relates to me, because it starts feeling like, I'm a beginner. It starts feeling like fantasy or unreal.
Yeah.
But the more we read, it doesn't. It's truth. It becomes truth. And then I'm still on that, like, I want to connect it to something I know about here today, or I don't get a good grasp of it. So I always feel a little bit like I get too caught up in the personal when I'm talking about Krishna's pastimes or Dhruva or whoever, but it's the only way I know how to do it, because it's just the way I keep coming back for more. I don't know, maybe I'll outgrow some of all that verbiage. But for now, yeah, it's the way I have to do it. Feels good. Yeah.
Speaking of getting down in the personal, I forgot the question at the end of that. So my question, just like other words like love and respect, I mean, you ask a different person, they have a different answer. It's kind of subjective to that extent or condition. My question is, what is sincerity? Like, what is the definition of sincerity? Not in a broad sense, but with its subtleties.
It seems like it's got to do with that, what we studied the other morning, that how to keep like unmotivated. Like if we're unmotivated by getting to know, if we don't really want to love God and learn how to serve God, then we're not going to. But if the motivation is service, and the motivation is love, and the motivation is I want to get to know every single thing about you, and it resonates in my soul when I do, unlike anything else, then, and I don't have a grasp on sincerity for sure, so I don't want to say too much about it, but that's what came up for me when you're sharing. Is like I'm always checking my motivation, because it's so self-centered most of the time, and that's not sincere to me. It doesn't feel really insincere. Like to be, but sincerity, nobody ever taught me that. Like I don't know where we learn how to be sincere, deeply truthful, and overtly honest in knowing what our motive is and the things we do, and really checking in with ourselves. It's not a skill that we grow up with or learn in school or anything. I don't know. So I couldn't tell you what true sincerity is. I just know that that's how I keep a check on my own, and I'm usually disappointed.
I appreciate very much. You started your response to Bhakti Rosa with that verse, and I think that's the perfect response to a question about sincerity. Savai pumsam parodharmo yato bhaktira dokshajay. I took your pratia, yapratia ma supersedati, and that our service is unmotivated, and that we're not looking for reciprocation or finances or honor or appreciation or distinction or popularity, and that might come, or insults might come, but we're simply seeking to please Srila Prabhupada. And if we're sincere, if we're unmotivated, then apratiyata, then our sincerity will result in uninterrupted service. That's all we want. Whereas if I want something else, say I'm serving to get a bigger house or some adoration or distinction, and then let's say if it doesn't come, then, oh, okay, then I'm not gonna continue with enthusiasm. So I think that in all of Prabhupada's teachings, that's the most appropriate verse to reference, so I appreciate that you went there. Ahituki Pratiyata. We quote that in the Tattva Foundational Summit when we talk about clear intention, sincere intention.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying. I just know the word, because the word burns, because it feels, I feel disconnected. And I know it, if I get a little quiet and check in, I know when my motivation is about me. So, yeah, does that help?
I it does help. I'm still in the path of learning, and I don't feel clear yet, but I'm sure it'll come to me because I will be determined.
I think we know when someone else is sincere. That's always fun to watch and observe, right? When someone's being sincere to us, or whether there's a motive behind their actions. I feel it. You feel it, right? Am I doing this because I want something? I immediately know the difference.
Yeah,
But how do we cultivate it in ourselves?
I'm not even sure if that's like my question. So like right now, I feel like my definition of sincerity is probably similar to my definition of love at 16. It had a lot to do with like Disney movies, right? Like, you know, so I have like concepts, but they came from like reading and kind of thinking, oh, okay, well, this kind of looks like that, and blah, 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 blah. But to what extent is it just not like idealistic or sentimental or whatever, just notions? I like wanting more concreteness, but I was.
It's also developed. I mean, it's something it grows. It's reciprocal. Like it's not something you can go take the course on sincerity or take the pill or whatever. It's like it's the action required.
Mhm.
Like I think a lot about like telling myself it's not just about knowing all this philosophy and verses. I love that part. And I wish that sometimes that's all I had to do, but there's an action required if I'm going to develop relationships and love and learn how to love and learn how to be sincere and show up for Anasuya and Dear Govinda and you and everybody else without saying, well, what's in it for me? Or what, like, how sincere can I be to you guys if I'm not immersed in the bhakti process?
And I think one of the issues I'm having with like that definition is that I think there's sincerity in things that don't have to do with people, but they're a relationship to something else, right? So sincerity in your approach to education, sincerity in this and that.
Anything, yeah.
Exactly. So in that way, I guess it's the same relationship, right? Like I'm not trying to get anything out of it. I'm doing it for its sake, I guess.
I'm just recalling you building your altar for the books, you know, underneath you went to a lot of work and you had to go study with somebody and you had to get the wood and learn new tools and trades. And then you put the books up, you showed us all pictures, like that felt sincere. Like you weren't going for the Wood Carvers Association Award or the whatever, you know, you were wanting to please Prabhupada, you were wanting to have a proper altar, you were wanting to have all your altar items together, to have a sacred place to play and pray and offer your food and to make your temple room more austere, like that, so we can look at where we are being more sincere and then where we need to still develop relationships with people. Is harder than relationships with wood and shelving. But you had to have a relationship with someone to show you all that. And I would imagine if I popped in on that session or two that you had a sincere relationship with your teacher and the process. It was for Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah, for sure.
Anybody online? Still Kelly, Dr. Devin, Rukmini, and Damayanti. Anybody want to say anything before we close up?
Hare Krishna, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Thank you for the class, Mother Laksmipryia, and I really appreciated your spirit of discovery and just overall in life. It seems like you're ready for life. You're a student of life, and yeah, just that's the main thing I got from this class, is to always be learning and be open and yeah, just the way that you live your life, there's like a feeling of magic and childlike wonder in it, and that's inspiring. It makes I feel I'm coming away feeling like life is an adventure, and what's the next lesson around the corner, and like it might open up this whole doorway to this unknown. You really I just feel like you live life fully, and it's inspiring me to have that same spirit. So thank you. Yeah, and I love how you bring it back to Prabhupada. It's very like there is that you do have, I believe, a like a creative and you can go play, like your mind can go a lot of places, and and so I guess you're receiving that positively. But your mind can just go places, but you do keep bringing it back to Prabhupada, and you keep bringing it back to Srila Prabhupada's teachings and Bhakti Yoga and like that core foundation. So I appreciate that you combining that anchor of the spiritual master and God, and then you have your your adventurous mind and your adventurous life. And so yeah, it's really inspiring to me how you live in Krishna consciousness. Thank you for the class.
Thank you, Mother Damayanti. Thank you for sharing your inspiring. I also want to know that I sense, or you see what I present, and you see I don't video and post about the moments where I go low or go sideways. But yeah, for the most part, living in adventure and curiosity, that's one of the strategies for living, right? Childlike curiosity, strategies for living, not the strategies for surviving. I did that long enough. Yeah. And it's visible and tangible, and you're seeing it on the screen, and you can feel it. It's inspiring for you. And I would hope that anything I do in Prabhupada's name could inspire or just keep me inspired. And it always does. There's no way to do service for Prabhupada and come away all sulky and judgmental and negative. It doesn't work that way. Yeah. So it's on the days where the service is high, I'm high. They correlate. Yeah. It's 9:27. I'll close with, I'll read the verse again, and let's check back in with Dhruva one more time. So Sankalpa Jam Vishnu Para Sevo Pasaditam Prapya Sankalpa Nirvanam Natri Pritopya Kyatram. Despite having achieved the desired result of his determination by worshiping the lotus feet of the Lord, Dhruva Maharaj was not very pleased. Thus he returned to his home. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you, everybody. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Kelly, Bhakti Kelly. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for class.
You're welcome.
And your childlike spirit.
And